I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but dag, I'm amazed and astonished. The problem is I got a lot of brains but no polish. I gotta holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge. I'm a diamond in the rough, a shining piece of coal, trying to reach my goal. My power of speech unimpeachable. Only 19, but my mind is older. These New York City streets get cold. I shoulder every burden, every disadvantage I've learned to manage. I don't have a gun to brandish. I walk these streets famished. The plan is to fan this spark into a flame. But damn, it's getting dark, so let me spell out the name. I am the A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R. We are meant to be a colony that runs independently. Meanwhile, Britain keeps on us endlessly. Essentially, they tax us relentlessly. Then King George turns around, runs a spending spree. He ain't never gonna set his descendants free. So there will be a revolution in this century. Enter me.
He says in parentheses.
Don't be shocked when your history book mentions me. I will lay down my life if it sets us free. Eventually, you'll see my ascendancy. And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. It's time to take a shot.
I dream of life without a monarchy. The unrest in France will lead to anarchy. Anarchy, how you say? Or anarchy. When I fight, I make the other side panicky with my
shot.
Yo, I'm a tailor's apprentice, and I got y'all knuckleheads and local parentis. I'm joining a rebellion, cause I know it's my chance to socially advance. Instead of sewing some pants, I'm gon' take a shot.
And but we'll never be truly free until those in bondage have the same rights as you and me. You and I do or die. Wait till I sally in on a stallion with the first black battalion. Have another shot.
Geniuses, lower your voices. You keep out of trouble and you double your choices. I'm with you, but the situation is fraught. You've got to be carefully taught. If you talk, you're gonna get shot.
Bird, check what we got. Mr. Lafayette, hard rock like Lancelot. I think your pants look hot. Lawrence, I like you a lot. Let's hatch a plot blacker than the kettle calling the pot. What are the odds of God will put us all in one spot? Pop in a squad in conventional wisdom, like it or not. A bunch of revolutionary manumission abolitionists. Give me a position, show me where the ammunition is. Oh, am I talking too loud? Sometimes I get overexcited, shoot off at the mouth. I never had a group of friends before. I promise that I'll make y'all proud.
Let's get this guy in front of a crowd.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Everybody sing.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hey.
Whoa.
Say, let him hear you. Let's go. I said shout it to the rooftop. Sit to the rooftop. Oh, come on. Let's go. Rise up when you're living on your knees. You rise up. Tell your brother that he's gotta rise up. Tell your sister that she's gotta rise up.
When are these colonies gonna rise up? 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 Rise up!
I imagine death so much it feels more like a memory. When's it gonna get me? In my sleep, 7 feet ahead of me. If I see it coming, do I run or do I let it be? Is it like a beat without a melody? See, I never thought I'd live past 20. Where I come from, some get half as many. Ask anybody why we living fast and we laugh. Reach for a flash, we have to make this moment last. That's plenty, scratch that. This is not a moment, it's the movement. Where all the hungriest brothers with something to prove. When foes oppose us, we take an honest stand. We roll like Moses, claiming our promised land. And if we win our independence, that a guarantee of freedom for our descendants? Or will the blood we shed begin an endless cycle of vengeance and death with no defendants? I know the action in the street is exciting, but Jesus, between all the bleeding and fighting I've been reading and writing, we need to handle our financial situation. Are we a nation of states? What's the state of our nation? I'm past patiently waiting, I'm passionately smashing every expectation, every action's an act of creation. I'm laughing in the face of casualties of sorrow. For the first time I'm thinking past tomorrow.
And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not
And this I'm going to be a little bit smarter about it. I'm just going to go ahead and put the annotated lyrics and explain those to you. That way it's up there so you can see it as I'm discussing it. So when he's singing that I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot, this is after the colonies had declared independence. So he's comparing himself to a young America. Then later on, the next part, he says, the problem is I got a lot of brains but no polish. I got to holler just to be heard. He's saying he's smart, but because he doesn't have the polish of wealth, he doesn't shine, and he isn't noticed unless he aggressively speaks his mind. This is the opposite of Burr, whose social standing allows him to be more reserved and still be heard. So when he says, enter me, enter Hamilton is an example of stage direction. So Hamilton is writing himself into the play of history by showing where he enters the show. He is entering into the revolution. He is entering into history. He is making himself known. He is no longer on the sidelines. He's no longer sitting on the bench. He is taking a starring role in history, which is why he comes down and says, don't be shocked when your history book mentions me. Then he says, eventually you'll see my ascendancy. This has a double meaning, both of his rise to power and also his eventual rise to heaven when he dies. So here we have Lafayette, and Lafayette is singing in very bad English. His English wasn't up to speed, but it will be, and he will reach full speed at the same time he also masters his military ability to lead. We're going to get to a song later called Guns and Ship, and he's going to have an incredibly fast set of hip-hop couplets that he's going to roll out there, and it's going to be mind-blowingly fast and amazing English. So it's going to show that not only has he progressed in his English, but also it's a symbol of his progression in his military knowledge. So Mulligan, it says he's a tailor's apprentice. He was actually a full-on tailor. The writers of the play thought it'd sound better if he was young and scrappy too. With that being said, he did want to fight to get glory and socially advance, so he would not just stay a tailor. So he didn't want to be stuck in a tailor's position. We have John Lawrence here who's trying to have a black battalion to save people. Well, he's actually a son of people who owned slaves in South Carolina. So he is the product of slavery. The reason why he is an officer is because of his station and wealth, which he has because of slavery, but nonetheless he wants to get rid of it. So as they keep saying shot, now at this point it's alcohol, where the shots are less about missing your chance and more about taking shots of alcohol. Tomorrow's song, or then the song after this, is a drunken sing-along that occurs after this moment. Now Burr tells them, hey geniuses, lower your voices, keep out of trouble, and you double your choices, or you're going to get shot. He's both serious and sarcastic. He thinks they are geniuses, but he questions how smart it is to be shouting about revolution in a bar full of people who may be Tories. And hopefully you remember that Tories are people who support the British. So when Hamilton says, Lawrence, I like you a lot, this is a little bit debatable. In history, there are letters between Hamilton and John Lawrence that are very sensitive and sweet, which is not totally unusual for men back then. Men back then would write letters about how they missed the closeness of their friends, and they miss hearing the soft sounds of their voice and having the comfort of them being nearby. Things that I think most, if you look around your classmate boys, that they probably would not feel comfortable saying to their classmates. So there is some modicum of debate about how close the relationship was and whether or not it may or may not have become more physical. Then they called themselves a bunch of revolutionary manumission abolitionists. So abolitionists are people that want to free other people's slaves, but manumitionists are people that want to free their own slaves. So all of these people are all wanting to end slavery, which does not occur at the end of this war. So when Lawrence says, let's get this guy in front of the crowd, it's actually alluding to a time where Alexander Hamilton was at King's College, which is named for King George. So it is a British college. And people were coming to attack, possibly tar and feather the president of the college. And Hamilton got on the stoop of stairs or whatever, and he gave a speech, and he turned an entire mob around with the power of his words. So this is supposed to let you understand how powerful his words can be and what a great orator he is. When he says, I'm not throwing away my shot, this has a double meaning. It says, I won't miss my chance, and in duels, it was common for both people to throw away their shots, shooting in the air to avoid killing the other person. This allowed you to keep your honor without killing. The problem was, though, if you threw yours away and other people didn't. So he's not going to throw away his shot for glory. and he's not going to show away his shot when they have a duel, or will he? When he says rise up, that says multiple meanings. It's rising up as the 13 colonies become a country to fight England. It's rising up as a poor underclass to become part of the elite, both for himself and for all the people around him. It's also rising up for the slaves to get freedom, particularly the whole brother and sister, a very common nomenclature for people of color to use. He imagines death. He never sleeps. He's insomniac, 7 feet ahead of him. That might refer to the 7 kids that he has. We'll make this moment last. That's a plenty. So we got nothing to lose. You may as well go for it. Most people you didn't expect to live past 20. So why shouldn't he go all the way, balls to the wall? There's no point in not trying to get everything he needs to do, because there's almost no chance, if he doesn't, that he's going to succeed. So he's either going to succeed or die trying. Then he starts getting concerned with all this bloodshed and violence. He's like, are we going to overthrow England and then just become mob tyranny? So this is what later happens in France. They have their revolution after American Revolution, and their revolution turns into the Reign of Terror, where Robespierre starts killing off everybody that disagrees with him, sending them to the guillotine, which is a big giant blade that drops down and cuts off people's heads without trial. So he's like, cycle of vengeance and death with no defendants, meaning you're not allowed to defend yourself in court. Are we going to become a rabble, a bunch of mobs? So this is where you need to note that Hamilton is in support of a strong central government. He is in support of making sure that we have democracy, but democracy is controlled by a strong central government. He does not trust the masses. He doesn't trust regular average people. And you might say this is odd because he is from a regular average background. He is not an upper class person, but he is unique. He is special. He is a diamond in the rough. Most people that are born into his situation are not as brilliant and capable as him. So just because he's special doesn't mean everybody else is. So he has a strong fear of tyranny and anarchy of the mobs and the masses from the people. Then he talks about his financial station, and are we a nation of states? What's the state of our nation? He's bringing up 2 points. One, we're going to have a lot of debt from this war. How are we going to deal with it? The last time there was debt from the war was the French and Indian War, and people raised taxes, and that caused this whole revolution. So how are we going to pay for this debt? So even though the war is not over yet, he's already beginning to think, what are we going to do after the war? He's planning ahead. He's thinking to the future. And this is happening during the war. He does lots of writing about this. And then also, how do we deal with 13 states that fear a central government? All 13 of these states are fighting to fight off the central government of England. They all rejected the Albany Plan of Union because they're afraid of a central government. So now how is he going to convince them that they need to have a strong central government? Because are they going to be the United States, a whole nation, or are they going to be a bunch of states that are united? Are they going to be 13 individual state countries that are united together loosely, or one strongly united nation under one central government? And he needs to figure out how to make that happen. So he goes on saying that he's smashing every expectation, every action is an act of creation, which is a quote from Pablo Picasso, who says every action of creation is first an act of destruction. So he's alluding that we have to destroy our dependence on England to create a new country. It also foreshadows having to destroy the Articles of Confederation to create a real nation instead of a nation of states. So if you remember back from last year, the Articles of Confederation had each of the states being much more powerful than the central government. It was like 13 separate countries, and he's going to have to smash that to write the Constitution, which creates a national government that is more powerful than the state governments. And I guess that's it. All right, thank you very much.